to just dive right into your topic. You talk about these 5 deceptions
I know
that stop people from having these healthy relationships. So what are these 5 deceptions?
Yeah, it's very juicy and intriguing, isn't it? So just to give a little bit of background of how I came up with these 5 deceptions. So, you know, I mean, I've been working in my field for probably closer to 10 years now. And, but I say I've been studying life, love, and relationships since I was a little girl. I know I'm a Cancer sun for any astrology fans, so I'm all about like that mushy, gushy, emotional, lovey-dovey stuff. And I just know ever since I was a little girl, I was always like watching the grown-ups and just studying relationships and how people interact. And so I would say these 5 deceptions that I've been able to distill it into. And in my work with clients, any issue that they're having in relationships, I'm like, oh, deception number 3, deception number 4, you know, and so I've been able to distill it to these 5 deceptions. And so I'm really excited to bring that here and to teach about them. And, I could talk for hours about each one, but we can just do like a little bit of an overview for today. And so we can like talk about each one and talk a little bit about it, and just so people get a taste, because they'll have an opportunity to learn even more deeply about it. And again, I do like 3-month, I've been working with clients for years, and 3-month-long programs just about these deceptions. So I just want to name, like, if you're watching this, like, don't feel like you have to really understand them all deeply. Like, just consider this like planting the seed and starting to lift the veil of these deceptions in your life. And I think they're really good to be aware of, especially with this topic of breaking free from codependency.
Awesome.
I definitely have codependent tendency, so I totally get it. And learning these deceptions, discovering them, and teaching them have continued to help me break free from codependency. So I just want to like lay the groundwork.
Yeah. No, I think instead of a 30-minute interview here, maybe we should do 5 hours, because
I know, let's
at least an hour for each.
Exactly. Full day summit, get your tickets now. So really the first one is about denying what you really want. And no matter how smart someone is, how aware someone is, myself included, fellow teachers and coaches included, there's always some level of not coming to terms with what we really want. And especially in relationships, right? And that can look a myriad of ways. And some of the most common ways is I work with singles who want partnership, healthy, long-lasting, loving partnership. And so one of those ways is like, oh, I want a partnership. Yet the actions that they're taking are like choosing people who are unavailable, choosing people who straight up say they don't want partnership. And then also behaving in ways that are not in alignment with wanting a committed relationship, like having casual sex all the time. And look, I'm a sex positive person, so I'm not knocking casual sex, but my question always is the choice to have that coming from a true place of empowerment and what you really want? And so part of working through that deception is really getting that clarity on, like, because I think too, we're conditioned from Hollywood and society to be like, oh yeah, I can have sex, no problem, it's whatever. When oftentimes it's not whatever. And especially if people are stuck in codependent patterns, like for me, I had to come to terms with the fact that I can't just have sex with someone and have it be whatever, because having that kind of intimacy is not whatever, and it's never going to be whatever for me. And so that's like one of the main things that I see when that deception is at play.
Yeah, that is true of me as well. I tried it out a few times, in college, and it just never, it was never whatever for me either.
And like so that's part of like the denying what you really want, because it's like we say it's whatever. Movies, TV, our friends, encourage it to be whatever, and it's not. And if it is whatever for you, that's not making you wrong, but it's just one example of a way that we can deny what we really want. And so helping people just kind of close the door on that, to stop taking those actions that are not in alignment with what they really want.
Yeah.
And so deception number 2 is another really common one, which I call an uneven playing field, right? And so I like to always illustrate it like with my hands like this. So it's like, let's say this is what you want. And so this is like that healthy, long-lasting partnership, that breaking free from codependency, that, you know, self-love, stepping into your own. And so in order to get what you want, you need to be like a vibrational match for it. So this is the even playing field. But when we're in deception number 2, which is an uneven playing field, we're just not a match. So we either think we're not good enough on some level, or we've even gone to the other side of it where we're somehow like superior. And so over here, it kind of looks like, let's say you're a single woman and you like dating men, and it looks like, oh, like those guys are too hot for me, or they're out of my league, or whatever. And like you find yourself on dates and just feeling just very like not enough, and feeling like, what do I have to bring to the table? So that's where you're like lower than what you want. But then sometimes that ping pongs to the other side, where it's like men are trash, or like I don't need a man, you know. And look, there's a balance with that, right? Because I do believe I don't need a man. However, if I want partnership on some level, I need a man or a woman, whichever partner you want. So saying that thing of like, I don't need a man, or like all men are stupid, or whatever things that we say, the programming, on some level, we're like being too good for them, right? And so whatever it is, we're not a match. And so what I see a lot, the biggest frustration with dating is this like ping pong of like, the guy is too boring, or he's too interested, or like he's not cute enough, or whatever. And so frustrated, or, oh my God, he's too good for me, I could never. And then we just keep ping ponging, and that's what becomes that frustrating cycle. Mm-hmm. And then you throw in codependence on top of that, and then you're just like stuck in this like,
right,
you know, or maybe you're stuck here for a really long time, and then all of a sudden you're stuck here, and it's just like boom, 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 but we're never here. So that's the deception, where it's an uneven playing field. And so in order to mitigate that, you would need to even the playing field. And that's part of like the work that I would do with people, to how do I get out of this cycle and get like on the same lane. And the exciting part is when I work with clients and they start to get in that same vibration, and they see there's an abundance of availability, and now they're just having fun. So that's the whole piece about dating madness into the romantic magic. So that's where that whole piece lives there.
Do you have like any suggestions just about that particular deception on like, I don't know, something people could apply today when they walk away to get out of that? Because I know that one very well too, and I'm sure so many people watching do. It's yeah, the ping pong. So any like just a tip or a tool that they could start applying?
Yeah, you know, I think it's really about bringing in reality. Because I think especially if we're talking about breaking free from codependency, a lot of codependency is stemmed in like this fantasy, right? And so if we're here, somehow you're making this person or these people something that they're really not. Because at the end of the day, the reality that I believe is we're all here. Mm-hmm. So there's something here that you're saying, like maybe they have a really good job, or they're too good looking, or their car's too nice, or I don't know, for whatever, they come from a really good family, whatever that is. It's like coaching yourself and being like, is this fantasy or is this reality? You know? And then oftentimes when we're here, usually that comes from a discomfort from like receiving goodness. Because I think like we find the good, nice guys boring when we're like addicted to this, like the fantasy. We're addicted to that kind of like high adrenaline, like, ooh, you know? And so we kind of have to like, again, bring reality in and like come back down from that and just kind of ask like, how can I receive more goodness in my life? Or how can I receive healthier intimacy and healthier dating in my life? Like the tip to walk away with, and I know that it's like not always satisfying because people want to hear like, these are the steps. But you know, that's not really, especially we're talking about breaking free from codependency and we're talking about relationships, there's no formula. Mm-hmm. There's because everyone is so different. So it's not like these are the steps, but just starting to ask those questions of like, am I being like, so if we're here, it's like, am I creating a fantasy of someone? Is this person who they really are? And actually last night I was on one of my weekly Facebook Live, and it was like, you know, especially when someone's really good looking. When someone's really good looking, we often create this whole person that they are, and especially like celebrities. And it's like, you don't even know that about them. You know, one guy was saying, he's talking about like, yeah, women like abs. And so like, if they have nice abs, and what I say is, okay, abs are nice. And okay, they maybe tell me that he eats right and does some crunches, but it doesn't tell me if he's a good person. I mean, how many people with abs are total assholes? So just asking like, is this reality, or am I making up a fantasy? And how can I like, you know, kind of level set? And then over here, it's like, am I pushing away goodness in my life? Am I rejecting what I want? You know, and how can I receive more goodness? And it kind of brings you down. So just asking those questions to like start to, and even if you're here, at least it's better than here.
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful. I appreciate you diving into that. I thought that was just a key point for people. So awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Deception number 3.
Yeah, deception number 3. So that one's like a really deep one. So I don't know that, like, I'm just going to just say what it is. And it's energetic entanglement with the past, right? Our relationships, our codependency, all of that stuff tends to come from our family of origin, whatever that looked like, whether we knew our parents or our primary caregivers, but whatever models we had of relationships growing up as children, because as children, you know, we say we're sponges, so we take in everything, and it's not like we're like 5-year-olds taking notes on like, this is how mommy and daddy treat each other, but we're learning based on like what we're absorbing. And so energetic entanglement with the past really just deals with all the ways that we're still hooked to the things that we knew from childhood, but a lot of times those things that we know from childhood are not in alignment with what we want right now, right? And so just at an extreme example, abuse. Children who have been around abuse or either been abused or been in like dysfunctional upbringings, there's a familiarity with that, even though it's bad and unhealthy and they don't want it as adults. There's a familiarity in the drama. And so we have an entanglement. That's one example, right? So then we have an entanglement with drama. And then we wonder, like, okay, I'm a completely sane, intelligent person. Why do I keep getting in these situations that are all this drama? And it's like, I don't want that anymore. And it's because you're hooked into the familiarity of the drama of the past. So, I mean, that goes super deep, and there's so many examples there. But essentially, it's like, what I would leave people watching this with is just like, how am I hooked into the past? How am I still playing out old family patterns in my relationships today? That's kind of like the question.
Yeah. It's another 5-hour, 5-year discussion, because it's definitely deep for sure.
Yeah. So for our next 5-hour video, So, and then deception number 4 is kind of one of my favorite ones. Well, I mean, I love them all, but it's just that unconscious, harsh judgments that we have of self and others. And what I would leave with that is like, let's say you're a woman who likes dating men, and it's like, if I were to write "men are" on like an easel or a whiteboard, like fill the page, just don't even think, men are, you know, and like we hear men are dogs, men are stupid, men are hot, like whatever, like just fill the page. And even better, do it with like a bunch of your girlfriends and just like men are, and just fill the whole page. Or if you like women are, and fill the whole page, and you will see those unconscious harsh judgments just kind of pop up. And so that deception is, the thing is, you can even be aware of it, but when you see the whole like whiteboard filled up with all these words of like dogs, idiots, dumb, cheaters, you know, hot, sexy, too good, too bad, whatever is there, all of that just came out of your mouth, like, is living in your psyche. And so if you're out dating and going in the world or relating with your partner, if you're already in a relationship, you're bringing all of that to the party. And so that deception is really about taking an honest look at those judgments and really getting to decide if they're true or not. Because when they're unconscious and they're just in the psyche, our minds just treat them as truth and as fact. And they're not, all men are not dogs. Not all men are cheaters. There are good men in the world. And so it's just about having more power and control over your belief systems, really. And so, yeah, and the reason why it's one of my favorites is because, when I do that exercise with my clients, or I have them kind of journal about it, or I give them homework to like go about your day and just notice all the judgments that come up, they always come back to the next session and they're just like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. And then like we look at the whole piece of paper and it's like, yeah, and you're going on dates, bringing all of this to the party.
Right.
And whether the person that you're with on that date is intuitive or not, they can feel that. Like, I know that men were able to feel when I was terrified of them, or when I was like, whatever, you're just a dog anyway, or you're just a cheater anyway. Like that doesn't invite healthy intimacy. So that's what Deception 4 is.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And number 5.
And finally, just rounding it up. This one's kind of a doozy. And like, I've worked with just this deception with clients for months, for years. And that's not meant to sound scary, like, oh my God, I'm never going to get over this deception. But honestly, this deception is it's a lifelong thing, like even when in relationship, and it's about checklists versus values. And so my favorite way to just describe that is, that infamous checklist where it's like, write a letter to the universe and make a list of all the things you want in someone. Well, if you take a lot of those lists, maybe even all of those lists, a lot of them are more like features and benefits and not really about character or values. And so like features and benefits would be like tall, dark, and handsome, great in bed, good job, has a car, I don't know, like whatever, right? Or is Christian, or is Muslim, or whatever religion, or, these things. And those can be important to you. But when I work with people, it's like, okay, but that's really like a surface level feature. Like if you're talking about like a washing machine, 5 speeds, or like heavy cycle, light cycle, does lights and darks, So what I invite people to do is to take it beyond the checklist and take it to the values, right? Because let's just take a look at, okay, good job, nice car, tall, dark, and handsome, and is Christian, as an example. None of those things actually tell you if the person's good or good for you, because you can be Christian and still be pretty crappy. You can have a nice car and still be pretty crappy. You can be tall, dark, and handsome and still be pretty crappy. And so how do we take those and actually see what the value is deeper than that, right? So let's take religion. I see women, especially, most of my clients are women, also gay men. I work with men too sometimes, but so that's why I'm talking a lot about women. Yeah. But I see them like, oh my God, like he knows about astrology and he meditates. And then they like again, that fantasy reality thing we talked about earlier, then they totally like disregard, like it's like, then now they're perfect. And it's like, how many dudes meditate that are actually crappy people? Or how many people know about astrology that are actually crappy? But like we attach this thing, and especially with codependence, we attach a lot of things with a lot of things.
Yes.
To this person, and it's just like, just because someone knows what their sun sign is and their moon sign is doesn't mean that they're a good partner for me. And so when let's say I'm working with a client on that, I'll be like, okay, well, what's the real value there? Like what really gets you excited about that? And sometimes it takes some time to peel back those layers and dig deeper, but essentially it's like, oh, has a connection with God or a higher power. Now that's something that tells you something different, versus like, oh, I know how to read my birth chart, or, oh, I know how to meditate. It's like, I have an ongoing, deepening relationship with God. Like, to me, that boom, that's like the core of it. And so that's the values versus the checklist. And yeah, and like I said, I work with clients for this for like months, because they'll be like, so this is what I want. Is that values or checklist? And it's like, I don't know, is it deep enough? Does someone having this feature, is it a feature that someone can just have that doesn't actually tell you who they are? Because someone saying they're Christian and they go to church every Sunday is different than someone saying, I have an ongoing deepening relationship with God that I cultivate every day.
Yeah.
Like, that's so different. So that's deception number 5.
Yeah, I love that one. And I immediately thought of my experience of before I met my partner, Ike. We've been together for, over 10 years now. And before I met him, I had made that list. I'd had a lot of unhealthy, codependent relationships in my past. And I had made my checklist. And I remember, like, when I met him, he did not meet like certain things on my checklist. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Here's my checklist. Here's my intellectual mind telling me all these things that are like what I want. And yeah, I love thinking back to that, because I could have never been like so wrong about my checklist, and then being able to just really open up to a relationship with Ike. And again, 10 years later. So, it's just funny to think about how we think that's so etched in stone. And then, what can change along the way. So I love it.
Yeah. And there's so many people, myself included, where it's like, because if we think about online dating, a lot of it is very checklisty, right? Because you put your little filters on there. And a lot of people that I talk to that are in really happy long-term relationships, they're like, my husband wouldn't have made the cut on my filters.
Right, yeah.
And so, I think dating apps are getting better now, like at not being so checklisty, because they have like the questions you can answer, which tells you a little bit more about the person. But yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're going with this features and benefits, it doesn't really tell you who someone is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for going through those 5 deceptions.